Ken Vandenplas is my guest today from the Shawano Chapter of Walleyes for Tomorrow. Walleyes for Tomorrow is a non-profit organization that spends all their time and money helping walleyes. So let's hear what Ken has to say. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Walleye Chronicles, where I get you guys off the street, bring in here, and we talk fishing. Just regular fishing. You don't got to be a pro angler. You could be anybody. We just want to talk fishing. So today I have a special guest with me. He's from the Shawano Chapter of Walleyes for Tomorrow. It's Ken Vandenplas. How you doing, Ken?
Doing great. How you doing, Matt?
Wonderful. So you are a Walleyes for Tomorrow guy.
Yep, I'm a chairman of the Shawano Chapter of Walleyes for Tomorrow.
And how long has that one been going on?
We started Shawano in 2011.
Awesome. So how'd that start?
Well, we started on Lake Link, actually. There was the typical complaint of nobody's catching any walleyes in Shawano Lake, and somebody a guy came up with the idea, let's get a hold of Walleyes for Tomorrow and see what they can do for us.
Right.
Well, we got a hold of Walleyes for Tomorrow, and the president and chairman of the board came down and gave a presentation and said, we will show you what to do, and you guys do it.
So were they receptive to you? Was it pretty easy to get going, or was it kind of, is there any paperwork or that kind of stuff to go through?
No, it was very easy. They helped us out immensely getting going. They gave us a startup check to get going.
Nice.
Each year we have a fundraiser of some type to cover our expenses. But no, they taught us how to run the hatchery. Walleyes for Tomorrow is from the chairman of the board to the guy that cleans the office is 100% volunteer.
Awesome.
One of the ways I got into it that I became the chairman. During the meeting, we had the second meeting. They said, well, you need to select a chairman, a co-chairman, and a treasurer to get going here. And nobody would take the chairman. So I asked the question. I said, okay, what does the chairman of Walleyes for Tomorrow get paid? And Mike, our chairman at the time, looked at me and goes, nothing. I said, no, not me. He said, the chapter chairman gets nothing. I said, no, not me. I said, you. What are you skimming off the top of this?
Right.
And he goes, nothing. We're all volunteer. I said, okay, I'll give you 2 years. I'll get it going. I'll do this for 2 years. So I was in 2011, and here I am. So.
It's nice to know that, like, when you're doing and you're having the fundraisers or the banquets, that money is actually going all back, and not, like you said, not somebody else is peeling some off the top as well.
Exactly. We have sponsors that sponsor our hatchery. We sell 2x2 sponsor signs, and even the members. I guarantee you, we're going to throw your money in the water.
Yep. Yeah.
It's either we're going to pay for a contractor to do a bank cut on the Wolf River. We're going to pay a contractor to supply 6,000 tons of rock, right. But it goes in the water. Yeah. So that's the cool part about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got involved, because I've been involved in too many organizations that people are, that are nonprofits, that people are making money off the top, and I don't agree with that.
Right, and there seems to be a lot of them that are just about the banquet too.
Exactly,
right,
and that's it, and we're not. We need the banquets, we need the fundraisers, but we're going to use that money. Yeah, so
money's going someplace. So, do you guys build your own hatchery, or is that something that Walleyes Tomorrow builds and supplies you guys with? You guys share them, or
no?
How do those go?
We build our own.
Oh, really?
Actually, the one we're just building a new one right now for Shawano. Mm-hmm. We're going from a 19 jar hatchery that we had. We're going to a 32 jar hatchery.
Wow.
Which will bring us up to about 11.9 million eggs that we can fit in that hatchery.
Holy mackerels.
So, but we build them down in Fond du Lac at the main office. Mike Arrowwood, our chairman of the board, is down there, and he's there. He has the design in his head, and we build them, But I took a bunch of guys from Shawano down there. I think we made 6 trips down, and we did the work, and along with Mike. And now that the weather's finally breaking, hopefully next week I can bring it back up to Shawano. It's done. It's ready to go.
Wow. So for our listeners, why do we need Walleyes Tomorrow in your area or in the areas?
Well, Shawano Lake, and the area that I concentrate on is Shawano Lake. Okay, and in the 1990s, Shawano Lake was a premier walleye fishing lake.
Yep.
You could go out at 5 o'clock in the evening, right before dark, and get your limit by 6:30.
Wow.
Ice fishing, or in a boat, and it just went away.
That threw over a bunch of things, overfishing, maybe runoff.
There's you hit them all, okay. And at about that same time, around Shawano Lake, they did a sewer project. Excuse me, that cleaned up the water. Okay, unintentional bad consequence for the walleye, but nobody can prove it because nobody did a study at that time to check on it. So the walleye population has plummeted. And how we got started was, having that meeting and just guys grumbling that we're not catching fish. So there's a group of us. There's like any organization, there's a core group of people.
Yeah.
Okay. There's probably about 6 or 7 of us up in Shawano. That's the core.
Yep.
But every spring, I bump that up to about 50. Guys that come and help me at the hatchery, which is great because we need the help.
Yeah, for sure.
And everyone in these hatcheries needs help like that. From setting nets to checking nets every day, checking water temperatures, and then once you've stripped the eggs and fertilized them, you have to babysit them every day, until they start hatching, and then it's pandemonium, because like now we're at a point on Shawano Lake where, to back up a little bit, when we started collecting eggs on Shawano Lake, we collected eggs for 3 weeks, and we filled 2.5 jars.
Oh.
We may have touched 1 million eggs. Wow. Okay. And we started out with a 12-jar hatchery, and we were just, and the fish were huge. The females were all around 26, 28, 30 inches. Okay.
Yep.
And we lost about 20 to 30% of the eggs during the incubation time. Okay. As we kept going and the population started growing, okay, our fish count of parents that we were using started raising a lot, okay? And it takes 5-6 years for this to start. And you have to be a salesman for 5 years because you're not going to see any of this.
Right? I've been working for this. Ken, where's my fish?
Exactly, because you don't catch the spawners in the nets by the spawning beds. You don't catch the small ones. Okay, we catch the mature spawners. Yep. So that's all you're seeing. Well, they're not there yet. So once they start coming in and we start going, now we're filling a hatchery with 6 million eggs in 2.5 to 3 days.
Wow.
Okay, compared to filling 10% of it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Okay, and the average size female now is that we're using is under 22 inches.
Oh, so they're younger. Is that more healthier?
Oh, they're a lot healthier looking fish. So yeah, So
you guys take the eggs too as well, or is that something with the DNR, or do you guys do all that?
No, we do everything. We strip the eggs. We strip the eggs in a dry. How we do it? We strip the eggs in a dry bowl. We strip the milt in another dry bowl, completely separate.
Yep.
Okay. So once we have the milt from 2 or 3 males, because that's where you see it in nature. Every time you see a spawning, there's a couple males hanging over the female, right? So. And these are done in dry bowls. We wipe the dries, and we even wipe the fish or stomach dry, because when the milt hits the water, it activates. Okay. That's only active for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, and it dies off. Okay. The eggs are a completely different story. The eggs are only active for about 45 seconds to a minute, and they close, and they once they hit the water, they open up where they'll accept the milt. Okay. But then they close after 45 seconds to a minute, and if they get fertilized, great. If they don't, too bad. Okay. It's Mother Nature's safety because if the sperm can get in, so can bacteria and fungus. Okay. So the egg's going to die anyway. So it's. You think about it, wow, that's not much time. Well, that's why in nature you have about a 30 to 40% fertilization rate if you're lucky. Okay. Well, we get 90 to 95% in a bowl because we're doing it in a bowl.
Right.
Okay? There's no currents, it's very concentrated. And then we mix that for 2 minutes with a foam brush or a feather, okay? Because the eggs are real fragile at that time. After we're done with that, we clean the milt off them because the milt's really acidic. It'll actually damage the eggshell.
Oh, an environment would wash itself off.
Exactly. They always wash themselves off. So we got one guy that's off to the side, and he's just rinsing eggs. That's all he does, okay? Well, then he hands it off to another crew by the table, and they put it in a cake pan, these 11 by 19 cake pans, and we throw mud on it, okay? It's bentonite clay that they use in the well industry, drilling industry, but it's real slippery when you mix it with water. Okay. And that coats the eggs so they're not sticky, because in nature they want to stick to the rocks or the grass or in the marsh. Okay. But we can't have that in a jar. Otherwise they're one big clump and the ones in the middle would suffocate. Okay. Because in the hatchery we run about a gallon and a half to 2 gallons a minute through these jars.
Wow.
Okay. Of fresh water that we take out of the lake. Okay. And that's where they sit for until they hatch.
Wow. And you guys think the water comes right out of the lake, so it's the water that they're going to grow up in, and everything's...
Yep, it's all the same water. We don't change anything. We filter it. We filter it down to 200 microns just to get some of the algae out of it and the clumps. Okay. But I've seen little baby leeches in there that get through somehow. But we don't change the temperature. Okay. There's a big reason for that. If you have a controlled environment where you control the whole environment,
right,
with temperature, you're okay. But the little guys are very dependent on zooplankton and phytoplankton that first couple weeks of their life. Okay. Well, if we bring up the water temperature, the eggs are going to hatch quicker. Okay. But the lake hasn't had time to catch up. And so the zooplankton and phytoplankton haven't bloomed. So we're going to let them go, and they're all going to starve to death in 2 days.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Hey, listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows, along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that, and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
So we do everything on Mother Nature's time clock. So, and with that whole process, how we beat Mother Nature is, in the beginning, is the fertilization. Okay, we do about 60 to 70% better than she does. Okay. While they're incubating, they're in the jars. They're protected. They're not laying out on the lake or laying in the marsh where the crappie and the bluegill and the perch and,
or the water go up or down.
Crayfish and every other thing that lives out there is eating them. So, we do very good there. So we have about a 90% hatch rate. Okay? We hold them for a day and a half to 2 days, sometimes 3, depending on the water temperature. But we look at them through a microscope and look at their shape. Is their yolk sac still hanging on them? Is it pretty much depleted? Because we got to let them go before that yolk sac is gone, or they're just going to starve to death.
Oh, they need that for their first couple go-arounds.
They need that for their first couple days, okay? So when they're that small, they haven't even developed a lower jaw yet. Okay. So they're swimming through the water like this, They're a sieve. So they're looking to get zooplankton, phytoplankton, and we take them out to the middle. We take them out to the deep, okay? We take them past the 6 inches to 6 feet is probably the biggest danger zone for it.
That's all the smaller predators are there.
That's where all the smaller predators are. It's kind of funny is when the eggs are hatching, is they come out of the hatchery and they come out of the jar and they go into a tube or trough and they go down and go into a holding tank that we have. And we get 6 of those tanks that we fill throughout the time. But anyway, the water flows through there and it just goes right back to the lake, and it's screened so that the little guys can't get out. But all the embryonic fluid from the eggs gets out. Okay. Well, there's a scent to that. Okay. And at night, I can take my flashlight and shine it at the water output, and the crappies are lined up like pigs at a trough, looking for the little guys, you know, because they smell them.
Yeah, ringing the doorbell.
Where's the food? You know, and they're not there. So we get on a boat right out to the middle, and then we just siphon the water out of the cooler, put them in a big 150 quart coolers. Siphon that down out in the middle, shut the motor off of the boat, and just drift. So it's not one big biomass. Okay. And we've been out and located the zooplankton plumes where the best areas on the lake are for the zooplankton, and that's where we let them go.
Dump right in there.
Dump them on their lunch. So,
Right.
you know, that's what we did. And after that, we have nothing to do with them. We let them go.
That's it.
You know, it's up to Mother Nature.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. You know, it's funny because I'm guessing every step on the line was a misstep at some point, right? To learn all these things.
We learn new things every time we're out there. I keep very detailed records of everything, and just because of that,
Right.
What was different from this year than last year? Because we had a 2% difference.
Oh, okay.
What was it? You know, and I can look back and say, oh yeah, maybe it was this. You know, and if I see that same phenomenon again, then I know that was probably it. You know, or we did something different. We changed our protocol on peroxiding the eggs numerous times as we've gone along, and now we take hydrogen peroxide. We were buying it at the grocery stores, okay, just off the shelf, the 3%. I used to go into Walmart in Shawano and buy buy them out, okay? Because we'd go through
Right.
and the checkout ladies would always look at me, what are you using this for?
Right.
Now one lady, I bathe in it, it helped my complexion. I had to back out of that.
Right.
But anyway, so once a day for the first 5 days, that's what we do now, is we take hydrogen peroxide, and we're using it's about a 7.5%. Now it's twice as strong as the stuff on the store. Okay. And we take that and put it in a drip system that goes right into the jar. Okay. The jar that's holding the eggs. And that kills any bacteria or fungus that's growing in that jar. Okay. And we can do that right up until the time where we call it the eyed eggs stage, where we can actually see the eye of the fish through the egg,
developing,
which is really cool, you know, because then we know within 3 to 5 days they're hatching.
Okay.
So we can use that peroxide every day, and what happens is, like I said, it'll kill the bacteria and fungus in the jar, but it also oxidizes on dead eggs, where it actually get an oxygen bubble on the dead egg, and that egg will float to the top of the jar, and we can just clean them off, which helps keep down the bacteria and fungus.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
That's
a lot of places we're using iodine to do that same thing. It does the exact same thing, but we found the peroxide with our system has that self-cleaning.
That's crazy. So is there a certain temperature, time, or weather conditions that don't do well? I mean, if you get like a cold snap, is that effective if you...
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you...
For the eggs, or just for the spawning in general?
For the whole process. How long is it from the time you grab them to the time that you release them, but roughly?
Just in Shawano Lake history, okay, since we started in 2000, we started the hatchery in 2012. Okay. 2011 was a year of going out and finding the spawning areas.
I gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, water temperature is key just for the spawning to start with. It has to be around 40 degrees. You know, we always thought it had to be above 40, 42 degrees.
Right, that's why I always thought 42 was magic number.
No. No, there's a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago, we had a real late ice out. Yep. Okay, remember that? Mm-hmm. We have an area on the lake that we work the fish. It's in a guy's cottage's front yard. Okay. And so I brought the big tanks out there, the holding tanks for the males and females, out there on a Sunday because I figured the ice was going out Monday or Tuesday. And it had opened up about 10, 15 feet offshore, that it was open, that I could see out. And we had put in a rock bed right by this place. And I looked out and I see a school of about 50 walleyes cruising under the ice. Just at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm thinking to myself, we're not going to catch any they're going to spawn under the ice.
Oh.
And we're not going to get them because everybody always said, 42 degrees.
Yep.
Threw my thermometer out there, and the shoreline was reading about 40 degrees. And it worked out that the ice, we got a little windy. The ice broke up, shoved off, and we were able to set nets. On Monday night, we set nets, and Tuesday morning we were full. The eggs, but the water temperature was 38 degrees in the nets.
Wow.
So it was below the 40,
Right.
42. So it's, when it's time, it's time.
I gotcha.
It's right around 40 for this one. And then the length of how long the eggs are in the hatchery for Shawano, the shortest has been 9 days.
Okay.
And the longest was, I think, was 32 days.
Wow.
It's all water temperature dependent.
Okay.
The colder the water, the longer it's going to take them to develop. Okay.
Is there any problems with them if they're in longer or no other?
No, it's actually better for them.
Is it?
I think. It's a slower development, and if I said we don't change the water temperature. There are some places that will not. Some hatcheries will bring up the water temperature to force their eggs to hatch faster, and there's been some talk of that. Have you ever seen a humpback walleye?
Yeah.
Where the back is deformed. Where you get more of those with a fast development.
Oh.
Don't know if it causes more birth defects or not. That's kind of a Barstool Biology deal. There's no backing that I know of that. Okay. But yeah, so as far as I know, the longer the better.
Wow. That's cool. So how many times a day are you there? I mean, does somebody have to be there? Are you there all day long? You check them morning and night or?
Well, depends on what time. Okay. When we first get set up, when we're processing the fish, we usually start about 8 o'clock in the morning processing the fish on shore, and we're done with that by about noon or 1 o'clock. But then we also have guys that are running back to put the eggs in the hatchery. So those first couple of days we're there from like 8 in the morning until 5 at night, just because all the work's going on. But during the normal day-to-day while they're just soaking, we're there 2 or 3 times a day, changing filters, checking water temperature, doing peroxiding, just the maintenance stuff. And normally that's 1 or 2 guys that have to do it. Well, that was with my 19 jars system. Now I'm going 32. We're going to be a little bit busier.
Right. So how is the population coming about?
Wonderful. One of the things that the DNR did for us or did with us was they are releasing extended length fry every other year. Extended length are 6 inches to 10 inch. Walleyes that they've had in their wild rose hatchery all summer and raised them, fed them. Okay. So they've been letting those go. We've been letting our 5 million go a year. And we always measured up until about 2 years ago acres to walleyes on Shawano Lake. And now we're measuring walleyes per acre.
Oh, nice.
Okay? Nice. They also changed the rule on Shawano Lake, which is there's a 3 fish limit, okay, and it's 18 inch. And that went through in the spring meetings, and I had to sit down in the Shawano when I was asked about that, when it was discussed on what our thoughts were. And if it's a legal fish, as far as I'm concerned, it's your fish.
For sure.
Enjoy it. We don't put them out there for you to look at. Okay. But I just asked in the meeting, I said, okay, I said, show of hands, and there's probably about 100, 120 people there. And I said, show of hands. How many guys walleye fish on Shawano Lake? And about eight or 9 hands went up. It was more than I thought. Okay. And I said, how many of you guys in the last 5 years have caught a limit? And there was crickets, And I said, well, what the hell's the difference? If we go from 5 to 3, okay, and once we get this back to where it should be, I'm fine with going back to 5. But just give us a chance. Now, that works on Shawano Lake, okay, because the population was so depleted. There's other changes of in the area that have gone to 3 fish, like the Winnebago system. I kind of question that. And Walleyes for Tomorrow kind of questions
Yep.
it too, because of the food base.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to the food base? What's going to happen to the white perch and the shad and the main food base with all these walleyes in?
Yeah.
Right? Can the lake sustain that?
Right.
We don't know.
Yeah, and that's one thing. As growing up, I've been lifelong bagel system since I grew up in Berlin and spent my time in Oshkosh. And I don't know if it's right or wrong what they've done, but I do like that they've decided to do something about it. It seemed like just in my time of fishing, I've noticed since the 3 went down, we're getting bigger fish now. Obviously, the jokes of go to Winnebago and catch a 14-inch fish over and over again is kind of going away. We're seeing bigger fish and more. I mean, we see a lot more 20-inch fish than I've ever seen as a tournament guy. We want to catch 1 or 2. A tournament would be your kicker fish, and now if you're not catching all 5, well, you might as well keep your boat in the water and keep going, right? So, I mean, I think just in around that COVID time, there was so many extra people on the water. And from what I watched and boats I saw come back and forth, I kind of liked it for the moment. I like to see them, like, they do things like almost like a contract base. Hey, we're gonna do this for 2-3 years and we'll reevaluate what happens, right? And not just do that. Okay, it's 3 and no chance to discuss, no way to bring anything back.
Right. Well, Winnebago's got a very good DNR. It's a very good DNR study base.
Yep.
Because they run that trawler every year, so they have a good eye on
what's going on
with the young of the year for each fish. So hopefully they can, they'll be able to change it back if they need to.
Right.
I know the Shawano one was put in as a temporary, and it hasn't been brought up to bring it back up to 5. We're not at that 5 limit yet.
Yep.
So, it depends on the body of water.
Right. So. And that's funny because the reason why I did to track you down is because I've been seeing people catching fish on Shawano at walleyes, and it's become a thing again. And I'm like, I asked my dad about it, and he told me about back, later earlier that there was a good fishery, right, and just kind of just disappeared for whatever reason. So that's kind of how my eye popped up, is like, they're catching walleyes in Shawano. I thought it was like a northern, that's about it, lake.
Yeah, it used to be a very good walleye. So we put a new spawning bed in, a different one. When we started out, like I said, the first year we just went out and tried to find a spawning bed.
Right.
Okay. So we were out with our high power lights at night, and we knew the island was a good spawning area because it's all rock around there. The DNR put rock around that island in the 80s. And it was easy to see fish out there. We knew we were setting nets there. But then we went all the way around the lake for a couple nights and shined the shorelines, just looking. And we found this one point over by the historical mark. It would be if you're coming on Highway 22 from Shawano, it would be on your farthest point as you look out over the lake. Okay. Yep. It'd be the northeast. Okay. But we found spawning walleyes on that point.
Oh.
And we were looking close at it, and here the landowner had put in a seawall, a rock seawall that went out about 4 feet into the water, and the walleyes are spawning on that seawall. It was on a perfect point. Okay, wow. It's called Rosenose Point because the gentleman who owned it was Jerry Rosenose. He ran the bait shop in Shawano for years. Okay, so we approached him and said, "Hey, we'd like to wreck your beautiful sand shoreline here and put some rock in." And he was all for it.
That's cool.
And he goes, "Let's do it." But at that time, the permitting process dragged out, and I was working full time, so I didn't have time to put into it that I should have. And it took a couple of years to get it done. Well, Mr. Rosno passed away. Okay, and so the estate went to his 2 daughters who were selling the property, and they said, "Let's hold off. We don't, talk to the new owners." Yeah. So I'm all for, talking to the new owners, thinking, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we were in spring, we were working in nets, and we were set up at the Bamboo Bar. Okay. And at that time, Al Niebuhr was our biologist in Shawano, and he was doing his lake study. So he would not allow us to set nets that year, but he would bring walleyes to us.
Okay.
Okay. because we couldn't put nets in the water and mess up his whole study.
Okay.
Okay. Excuse me. So he's coming from the island, and I'm over at the bamboo in the parking lot, and I'm seeing the bottom of his boat slamming like this, just down in the water. And I'm thinking, there's a tank full of fish in there. How are they going to get here? You
Right.
know? And he said, we got to move this. He goes, I got more water in the boat than I have on the outside.
Yeah.
So I made a phone call to a buddy and said, hey, can I move over to your property, which is close to this Rosenose Point?
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up in the wrong yard, okay? Because I had taken some eggs to the hatchery, and the guys, I told them where to go, gave them very explicit, go to the end of Bishop Bay. It's the last cottage on Bishop Bay, okay? Well, they did that. They went to Bishop Bay in the very end, and the last cottage that you can see in Bishop Bay is on Sandy Drive, which is somebody else's property. So I come walking up, and I'm, after I came back from the egg, I'm going, we're in the wrong yard. And we are so dead. We are so dead. And there's a gentleman standing next to where the guys are mixing the egg.
Yeah.
And I don't recognize him. So I'm going, I think this is the landowner. So I said, how you doing? He goes, yeah. He goes, great. He goes, isn't this cool? I said, yeah. I said, you don't happen to be the landowner here, do you? He goes, yeah, this is my cottage. I said, I'm sorry, but we weren't supposed to be here. We're supposed to be next door. He goes, oh, no, this is great. Well, it turns out that his son was in the process of purchasing the corner, the point lot.
Yep.
Everything fell together. It's a Slom family out of Appleton that own all this. Great people. They allowed us to do the rock.
Nice.
And they allow us in Bob's front yard every year to strip the eggs. So it couldn't have worked out better for us.
That's awesome.
But that's become one of our premier nets now for catching walleyes from spawning. Last year, one net, we had over 70 walleyes in one net in one night.
Wow.
I mean, it's a good net. It was a good catch.
So how do you guys, how do you work with the DNR or the biologist? Do you guys work together? They help you out, or is it two separate things? They stop in and check on you guys? How does it all work?
It's two completely separate entities. Okay. And so we're 100% volunteer. They're 100% government.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fixed TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fixed TV. And when you're done with that and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix. Yep.
Okay. We work very closely with the DNR. Everything we do is through the DNR. We don't throw rocks in the water without their permission. They come out and they inspect the hatchery. They help us with the hatchery. We help them with projects. Last project we did together on Shawano Lake was still ongoing because we did a tagging with the DNR. Okay. We took pit tags, which are the same tags, chips that you put in your dog or cat, right? And we tagged a bunch of fish on Shawano Lake. Walleyes, northern, and muskie. Okay. I think we did 800 walleyes, 500 northerns, and I think 40 muskie. And I got to give a plug to this is Figure 8 Muskie Club. They were in on this too. Okay. They helped support it. So the three of us supported it. And now they put an antenna system out into the lake each spring. And we did it in 2023 was the first year we put the pit tags in. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then we set the antennas for 2024. Remarkable data. Unbelievable. So
you can actually see how they move around the lake.
We can actually, just in spring. Okay. That's our only interest is in spring is when they're the spawning. Yep. It's phenomenal. The movement. There is I knew of this one fish that Elliot, our biologist, who's a great guy, and we were talking one day, he goes, hey, Ken, you got to see this. He showed me a tracking of a fish that went from by the dam in Shawano, came up the Wolf River a mile, went into the channel, went however long it is a channel in between the Wolf River and Shawano Lake, went through there, went through Shawano up into Washington Lake, and then went through the little culvert and creek and went into Loon Lake. And from Loon Lake, it went up into the creek, one of the creeks, and that's where it spawned.
Oh, that's crazy.
And that was all in a couple days. Okay. And I thought that was crazy. And then we just had our meeting with the public meeting on this study.
Yep.
Okay. Elliot had another fish, did about the same thing, but went up to loon and sat in loon for a couple days and didn't like the condition. This is a big female.
Yep.
Okay. Didn't like the conditions there. Went back in through Washington into Shawano, went into Cecil by the Pickerel Creek, which is right where we have our hatchery.
Yep.
And she sat there for a day. And then she went back into loon and ended up spawning in a creek by a loon. And last year was a really low water flow.
Yep.
Okay, we had no snow. Okay,
yep.
So there wasn't a lot of runoff, except for the one day when the thunderstorm
came
through. But so there wasn't really good water flow in Pickerel Creek. So she went back to where the water flow was better on loon.
That's crazy to me that they know to go there, if it's like genetics, or where she came from originally, or if it's just a water flow thing, or
and you know, with the genetics, you touched on the genetics. There is, we're only seeing about, well, this we had about 10% of the fish we used had the fin clip that they came from the DNR hatch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The rest are either natural or they came from our hatchery. Okay, and it shouldn't be that way. There should be more of these DNR fish that we're seeing. Well, guess what? Now we think we found them. They're going into Washington and they're going into the creek because we're getting all our eggs off the lake.
Because that's where you guys hired them from.
Okay, and I asked Elliot, our biologist, I said, well, what's the genetics on these? Are these lake? Are the parents lake or are they river fish? We really don't know because they came from the hatch. Okay, so and it's not that they just started hatching or spawning up there, because they've spawned up there for years. Because I've talked to the wardens, and that was one of their favorite places to bust people for spearing and stuff.
Oh, so is that a place you're going to try to grab fish from going up there now in the future?
We are, and that's one of the reasons that we were able to expand our hatchery now. Okay, because we are always licensed for the waters of Shawano and Washington Lake. That was it. We can only claim those acres. Okay, well, now we can claim Loon Lake, the Channel, the Wolf River, between the dams.
Yep.
This year we're going to be, Elliot is setting nets in the Red River off of the Wolf.
Oh.
Okay, to see how many walleyes go up that river and spawn that already been tagged.
Wow.
Because they didn't just tag from the nets that we had. They had tagged fish that they caught in the Wolf River.
I gotcha.
And in Loon and Washington. So it's a good sample of the lake. Really interesting.
That's pretty crazy to be able to see where they go from year to year, and kind of like just to be able to confirm what people have always thought about the weather conditions, the current, and all that kind of fun stuff of where these fish go, and if they're from the area and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool to see where they.
So another ongoing study that we have is each year we do a fin clip. So for the last 2023, 2024, we've done a small fin clip on the the males and the female. And we've taken those samples and we sent them into UW Stevens Point and had a database built of the parent fish. Okay, so now each fall when the DNR does their fall shocking, they catch any young of the year walleye. They'll do a fin clip, get a sample, send it off to Point, and we can match them up and see if they came out of the hatchery, because the ones that we did the fin clip on in spring are only ones that were used at the hatchery.
Oh.
So we can tell what percentage are coming from the hatchery. Okay?
That's cool.
Green Lake has done that for a couple of years.
Yep.
They're averaging about 70% coming out of the Green Lake walleyes for tomorrow hatch. When we first started out, there was a process called OTC marking. It's an antibiotic that the real name is about that long, okay? And I can't say it. So we're going to call it OTC.
Yep.
Well, what we would do is we take all the fry, on the day that we're going to release them, put them in these coolers, in the big white coolers, and put them in this antibiotic solution that comes from the beef and pork industry, okay? And it would stain their bones, bright blaze orange. Just like they marked some of the, the bears. Okay, they do that with bears too. But, they just give them a shot of it. But this stuff here, we soak them in it for 8 hours, okay? Well, when they're the size of a mosquito, and that's the size they are when they're hatched, okay, there's only one bone in their body, and that's the oldest bone. That's their balance bone in their head. Well, it stains that blaze orange, right? But at that time, it's smaller than a grain of sand. So in order to check to see if it has that mark, you have to sacrifice a fish.
Oh,
because you got to get the bone out, cut it in half, and put it under a microscope, because then it's a microscopic dot, that orange. But of all the fish that we had sent in from 2 years in a row on studies, came from the hatch. They all had the mark. So they said, well, okay, it's working.
Yep.
Let's quit. And I was really happy with that, because I felt that not only are we having to sacrifice a fish, but I was thinking it was stressing out the little guys, because we were having a really hard time holding temperature in those tanks.
Oh, I gotcha.
So, and I think it stressed them a little bit, but it worked.
Oh. So what other stuff do you guys do, like shore projects and all that kind of stuff? What other kind of things have you guys done there in this last time?
In Shawano Lake, that was about it so far. We're permitted to, or not permitted, but we budgeted for throwing some trees in the water, okay, in the deeper water, and that's really doesn't have too much effect on the walleye, okay, but it helps the food bait, the bait fish.
Yep.
Some of the lakes up north, I think it was up around by Rice Lake area, and I hope I've got this right. But they threw some trees in the water and went back the next year, right after ice out, with a camera just to see what was going on down by those. And they said that the trees looked like Christmas trees with garland on them. There was so much perch spawn hanging. Oh. Well, the perch were using for spawning, which is great. Right. They're a bait fish, you know. So we're looking at doing that. We just, with getting the hatchery going this winter, we didn't have time to get that going. Yep. So we'll try again next year. But we're doing more and more of that.
So is there worry about having, as you're growing this walleye up and what you have for a forage base? Is that kind of worry? Is that something you guys got to worry about now?
We don't have to worry about it now, but it's something that could come up in the future. Okay. So we have to watch it. You know, I don't think you'll ever make Shawano Lake a walleye dominant lake because there's so many northerns in the lake. Okay. And that lake gets incredible pressure. You go out there now this time of year and it looks like a scene from Grumpy Old Men with all the ice shacks out. Right. But it's in a perfect location. Yeah. It's 30 minutes out of the valley. It's 30 minutes out of Green Bay. Yep. Okay. So if somebody wants,
right in there,
somebody wants to go fishing for the day, run over to Shawano. Yeah. Which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So, but there's a chance that it could get overpopulated. Right.
And then, is it a worry that that you're using that the northerns and muskies are, that's basically their forage base in a way, right? Is that kind of a
there's a rule in nature. Yeah. It's big fishy, little fish. Right. Okay? So
are you worried about that population of northerns and muskies are just going to go boom with, as the other way around, as you're making all their forage base?
Well, it's kind of interesting is the last 2 years on Shawano Lake, the ice fish virtually nil. There's very little pressure because of bad ice conditions. Yep. And this year the guys are and I've seen it too, is catching bigger and more northern. Okay. So that population is high, but people are catching 14 inch perch, bigger perch. Okay. Bigger bluegills, a lot of bluegills.
It's going to trickle down and trickled up a little bit.
It does. I mean, it's if you have too many bluegills in the lake, it's going to stunt them. That's true. So, and almost every northern that I've cleaned this year has had 1 or 2 bluegills in it. Okay. And I'm sure every walleye has probably got 1 or 2 bluegills in it, or
So what got you here? Because you after all these years of what you got 13 years in doing it, right? Yeah. You're talking to you is like talking to a fish biologist. Did you ever think that this was going to be?
No. I am a 2 years ago I retired. Yep. I was a cable TV manager, statewide manager for Spectrum. Okay. And I did this part time, just playing around. Yep. I sucked at science in high school. Okay, and I didn't go to college, so that's.
Did you grow up fishing?
I grew up fishing. Yep. I grew up in Green Bay, fishing on the riding my bike the mile down to the Fox River by Fort Howard underneath the bridge, catching carp and bullheads and spending my summer there. So.
But you never, was it something you always want? I mean, have you always wanted to do work with fish and stuff, or is this kind of you just fell into it?
I just fell into it. I it's kind of funny because I didn't get into walleye fishing until I got into that.
Well, if there's nothing there, I suppose, right?
Well, I kind of kid around. I said there's a reason that they put me in charge of the walleyes for tomorrow in Shawano, because I haven't heard a walleye in years. If I lucked into one when I was on a bay perch fishing, that would be about it. But no, I was as far as fishing, I did a lot of Great Lakes fishing. A friend of mine had a boat. We kept out in Two Rivers, so I spent a lot of time salmon fishing. That's where I spent most of my time.
Okay.
And now I'm fully hooked into walleyes. I go up to Canada once a year. So.
That's crazy. Growing up coming on Green Bay and not to be a walleye fisherman. It's kind of funny.
Well, it wasn't there in the 70s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I graduated high school in the 70s. Okay.
So you had dirty, nasty water and all kinds of bad stuff coming out of there.
The bay and the Fox River was a soup kettle. So no, we didn't keep any fish out of the river then. So.
That's crazy. So what's next for the walleyes for tomorrow? Just kind of keep plodding along, or is there any big projects coming up and that you guys are looking forward to do? Or
as far as Shawano, no. We're gonna just that maybe throw some. Well, with the hatchery, doubling the size of the hatchery, and then throwing some logs in the water, possibly. Walleyes for tomorrow as a general group.
Yep.
It started last year where we did some tagging on the bay, the reward tagging on the bay with the DNR.
Yep.
Okay. We're not getting the results back from that we really expected to see or want to see.
Is it because people are bringing them back, or just it's such a vast area?
We don't know.
Oh,
we don't know.
That's a lot of fish.
So with that tagging of that reward system, how the reward system tag works is you take a known number of tags.
Yep.
Okay. So you take 200 tags and you tag 200 walleyes in the lake. Okay. And then you pay $100 for people to give the tags back.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're hoping that $100 gets people to
do it, yeah.
At least call it in.
Yep.
You don't even have to keep the fish. You can just call it in.
Right.
Get the number off it, call it in. And walleyes for tomorrow, and I believe that one we're doing on our own. But walleyes for tomorrow pays $100. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Because of the data that we're getting. Okay. So if you catch 20 of these 200 fish, okay, you get a pretty good idea that you have a 10% catch rate.
Yep.
Of the whole lake. Okay. Well, the numbers we're seeing aren't there. Either the fishery is so great, okay, or we're not getting the tags back. Guys aren't turning in a tag. So the DNR has asked us to double the number of tags here, and it was kind of it was a last minute request, and so we did a vote by email of the chairman of the board of directors. And it was pretty unanimous that, let's go for it. So we're going to be doubling the amount of tags on the bay this year with those reward tags. If you guys can get them, you don't have to keep the fish. Okay. Take a picture of the tag number. Okay. Call that in, and we're going to cut you a check.
Okay.
Okay. Because we need the data.
Right.
Because they want to see how many fish, not a creel count of how many fish, but what percentage of fish are being caught on the bay. Because the bay is a fact.
Yeah. Big factory. It'd be cool to see if they did like the GPS tracker thing study up there. That'd be kind of neat too at some point.
They're working on that too.
I think they did that in Lake Erie. I think I saw a video of them doing Erie, which was just kind of blew my mind. I didn't even think that was such a thing. But
we did the tracking on with the sonic tags.
Yep.
In Winnebago for years with the DNR, where they were they'd catch them in a spring run, and they'd on the boat do surgery on the fish and put that big sonar thing in it.
Oh, yep.
But yeah, we've sponsored that too.
Oh. So how many locations are there
of walleyes for tomorrow?
Yeah,
there is 11 chapters throughout Wisconsin. And the thing is, walleyes for tomorrow is Wisconsin based. We're based out of Fond du Lac. It started in Fond du Lac on the Winnebago system.
Yep.
because the same way we pretty much started the Shawano chapter, a bunch of guys complaining about we're not catching fish. You know, what can we do?
Yep.
And so that was in 1991. Okay. And in 1992, we incorporated as a 501c3,
Yep.
you know, charitable. And we really got going. And then we started having the banquets, the yearly banquets and projects. The Wolf River, Walleyes for Tomorrow has over $2 million invested in the Wolf River. In bank cuts and marsh projects. Yep. You can always tell a Walleyes for Tomorrow marsh on the Wolf River because there's at least 36-inch culverts on the downside, and there's 36-inch culverts on the inlet side because the walleyes aren't going to use that marsh if there's not water flow.
Yep.
They won't even go in. You know, the females won't even go in there.
Wow.
Okay. So, and that's where we spent the first couple of years really concentrating on just the wolf, and then that started paying dividends, and people went, okay, this works.
Yep.
So then we have, like I said, 11 chapters throughout the state, and of those 11 chapters, we have 9 hatches.
Wow.
So there's, like the Shawano one,
Yep.
there's 8 other ones throughout.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Where's the weirdest chapter?
The weirdest?
Yeah, is there one that's just no man's land, or not? Are they all close to us? Or?
The one there's one, they're just starting back up there. That's been a couple years since they did it, down by Lake Geneva.
Oh, geez. To me, that's weird.
You wouldn't think of it, Lake Geneva, yeah. Well, Green Lake has been very, very, very successful there.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Rice Lake, I think it's Big Cedar up there, Big and Little Cedar up there. We had one by Point on Pine Lake. That one closed down because of the chapter chairman passed with COVID, and they couldn't keep it going. So
that's the one thing that sucks is, I hope young people kind of get involved too. I don't know if you have younger people, but you talked about a core group, and I see like a lot of conservation groups that are doing well have that core group, and it's like you got to find that next group of guys that are willing to get involved and really kind of put their foot forward. Exactly, and that's one thing that we've had that discussion in our board meetings on how we're doing it. Right. I go and talk with the high school fishing club. Oh, that's cool. Fishing teams. I was supposed to be there yesterday in Kakana, but there's a scheduling conflict because kids want an early release. But anyway, and another thing too that Walleyes for Tomorrow does is each chapter has or not each chapter anymore, but Shawano Lake has every year we have a kids fishing day. That's cool. Okay, and how we do that is we get sponsorship from local businesses. Okay, and some people just sponsor a kid. It's $25 to sponsor a kid. Oh, okay, and we get the Sheboygan Walleyes Club. Okay, on one of their off weekends. Yeah, it's always in August, and a weekend that they don't have a tournament. They come up and they take kids out fishing for awesome. Okay, so they get a free lunch. They get to fish with a pro for an hour. Yep. Okay, and we give them a fishing pole. Okay, that's cool. And it doesn't cost the parents a penny. Wow. But there's one rule that we do have is that dad cannot go in the boat with the kid. Mom can. I gotcha. Why? Because we want the pros to be able to concentrate on the kids. Gotcha. Not dad stealing it. Yeah. This actually comes from the pros asking us, hey, can you keep the dads out of the boat? Because they're just hounding us for advice. I suppose. And that way they get to have fun with kids, and it's a blast. Right. Yeah, kids love that. There's one, I can't think of the what it's called now, the Forever Future Anglers out of Oshkosh, or Tomorrow's Anglers, I think. Oh, that's a phenomenal. That one's pretty awesome. I was part of that a couple years back, and that's really cool. And just seeing all the kids when they get in the boats, and they're all these 20-foot fiberglass boats, and the kids are all sparkling, and kids just love it. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then also with the hatchery, high school groups, the biology classes. Shawano, I've been to Shawano talking. Well, Shawano's come and worked in the hatchery with us. Shawano, Bondwell, Pulaski, or actually any of the schools that would ask, either I'll go or we'll send somebody to go and give them a presentation on it, or invite them right to the hatchery. Right. So. That's cool. Yeah, we need the, like you help them produce the next generation of fish. We also need the next generation of fishermen, right? And people to help out. And who's gonna pick this up when I don't or can't or don't want to do it anymore? Right.
And so it's, we got to get younger members, and it's going to work them in somehow.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard part.
Because they're working.
Yeah, right.
I was lucky that when we started the hatchery, that I had some very understanding company, a very good company that was said, okay, yeah, you can, we know you're good for the hours. Go ahead and do that, and just come in when you can, and you'll do your job. So.
Oh, that's cool. So what's been the most rewarding part for you in this whole journey?
The kids. Yeah. Every once in a while we get a picture sent to us. We had one this winter of this, he had to be about 10 or 11 years old, holding looked like about a 20, 22-inch walleye on the ice, and his grin was bigger than the fish.
Right.
And the caption from his mom was, this has been his dream, is to catch a walleye.
Wow.
And that's it. And even on the end of our presentations our slideshows I give, we have a picture of the first year that we had the kids fishing. One of the kids caught a walleye. It was a little bitty thing, but he caught a walleye, and then he's on there with his brother. His picture in there, smiles and I put on there, this is why we do it. And that's exactly why.
Yeah. Wow. So do you take do you visit other groups, their stuff, to kind of see what they're doing? Or you guys, because of your own ecosystems this way, you kind of just focus on Shawano, or you kind of check around the other places to kind of see what they're doing?
Within Walleyes or Tomorrow, everything's shared. Everything's shared. And we share, if I see something weird, I share it with the DNR. And they may have seen it before, or they didn't. The original biologist that we had, Al Niebuhr, he is now a supervisor out of Wausau. And if I see something weird or something cool, I still call Al, and he goes, well, I've seen that back in, so and so. Or if I have a question, I'll talk to our biologist or call Al, and I always get an answer.
So obviously you handle big fish, right? So what's the biggest fish you guys handled over there?
Over in Shawano?
Yeah.
32 and a half.
Wow.
But here's the interesting thing.
That's crazy.
The females now, we're at a point where we will not use a female bigger than 26.
Wow. Is it, so I suppose as they get older too, there's more stress in them too as well?
Well, it's the eggs, more than anything, is a big 26, 27-inch female will give about 30, 32 ounces of egg. Okay?
Yep.
Now, multiply that times 4,000. Because there's 4,000 walleye eggs per fluid ounce. Okay? So she'll fill half a hatchery jar. Okay?
Oh.
But about 30 or 40% of those eggs won't fertilize. Okay? These are the old ladies of the lake. They're not as fertile.
Right.
But on the and for me, it's all about the numbers in the hatch. Okay, we only get so much room in the hatchery.
Yep.
So if I can take 5 20 inchers and fill that same, and I'm going to get 90%, I'm going to take those.
Yeah, right.
But on the flip side of that, the 26-inch fish seem to have a little bit bigger egg. Okay, the eggs are just a little bit bigger. Okay, well then you fall back to the Mother Nature rule: big fish eat little fish. Do those 26 inchers have a better chance than their smaller cousins from the 20 inch?
I gotcha.
So I don't know. That's the one thing I don't know. But I go by. I only have so much room in the hatchery.
Oh, right. Take the ones that are, they're going to be better off.
Yep.
So all the fish have their own kind of weird markings. Do you guys ever come across fish you see multiple years, or lines, or ones that you've tagged that you just keep coming back?
Same one. When we first started out, we were doing it at the island, and we were running the fish from the island 5 miles back to Cecil to strip the eggs and the milk. And we caught the same male 3 days in a row at the island that we released by Cecil. He shot back across the lake and got there for the party, and we dragged him back. The best one, though, was the muskie that we caught off the point. We catch everything in the net.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
So there was about a 42, 43-inch muskie that we caught in a net 5 days in a row. And finally, we took it, because muskies are real territorial.
Yep.
And we'd let it go, and it would just go right back to that net. So finally, we talked to the DNR, and the biologist took him and brought him across the lake.
In a new spot.
Well, because he was getting pretty beat up.
I suppose,
being in a net for 5 nights.
Mm-hmm.
But
so is it just like a net that holds them, or is it
It's called a fike net.
Okay.
What a fike net is, it has a curtain like a seine.
Yep.
Okay, which is, ours are 75 feet long, and you attach the one end of it to the shoreline. Okay, and the other one you run out to the deep.
Yep.
And out on the deep end, there's a box. Okay, which has some like V funnel in it.
Oh, yep.
Okay, so what'll happen is the walleyes or all the fish will run into that screen. Okay, when a fish panics, it goes deep.
Okay.
So it runs into that screen or that seine and goes deep.
Uh-huh.
And it just goes through a series of hoops.
Yep.
And then the very end of it is just a holding bag, which we untie from that end and scoop the fish out with a net.
So there's not too much. They're not getting caught up in it or all that stuff.
No, they're not a gill net or anything like that.
Gotcha. Is that kind of a pain? It seems like that must be kind of a pain in the butt to put all that together.
That net?
Yeah.
Well, we buy the net built that.
But no, I meant like installing in the lake and stuff like that. Is that kind of do you have to worry about anything being in the way or something from the?
Oh yeah. Well, we can't set them out there if there's any ice.
Right, because they'll tear them out.
We'll just tear them up. And we were always using 4-foot nets, 4-foot boxes out on Shawano, and the wind would catch that because we were in such shallow water.
Oh.
And would actually roll it. Well, now once that rolls, your seine part of it, the curtain, is flipped open, and they're just going to go where they want. So, that and muskrats. Muskrats love to chew, so they'll get caught in the net and they'll chew their way out. So we're constantly zip tying those, and then every year you have a net mending party.
Oh, yeah.
But the DNR is very good at working with us on that. Elliot, our biologist, Elliot's been with the Shawano office for forever since we started.
Yep.
Okay. He was a fish tech, and he recently got promoted to the biologist, but he hasn't changed his ways. He's helping us in every way, and he's been great with setting that.
Right. What do you think the prognosis for Shawano is?
I'd like to have it back where it was in the 90s, and I think we're on our way.
On your way there.
And I think by doubling the size of the hatchery, we'll get there a little quicker. But I would like to see the spawning Shawano Lake to be a self-supporting lake again, and that we don't have to do it, which would really be cool. Will it get there? I don't know. No, I know on Green Lake they really didn't show. They showed some results when they first started out, and it wasn't until they doubled their hatchery to get where they are now. I think they're running close to 40 jars. Is when they really started seeing the result for green, and I think we are at that. And our biologist agrees with me that we're at that same point where we should double it and go for it. So
that's cool.
Which is cool. The support that we have from them is great.
That's awesome.
I know, and I got to give a shout out to where we're at, the Real Shot.
Yep.
When we first started out, the first 2 years, the Real Shot was right there with us. They gave us a nice check for the first couple of years and really helped get us going on our feet.
Yeah, it always helps having that extra stuff. Especially when you don't have to the banquets are fun and all that kind of stuff, and you make good money off. But it's also a lot of work that goes into them too, as well. Right?
Shawano Lake, we've quit doing the banquets, and we've done meat raffle.
Yep.
Which has worked very well for us down by the lake. And then just sponsorship of the hatchery.
Yep.
We get the local businesses hang their sign out there. And pay us for that, and we put that sign up at everything we do. Okay. At the kids fishing, or if we get something else going on, we'll put the signs up, show them the love.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being in here, Ken. It was awesome. I grew up in Berlin, so we had walleyes tomorrow. I remember going to the banquets and seeing the work that they did up there over the years, and way up above Berlin, and working on the marshes and all that kind of stuff was kind of neat. So
they just finished a sauger project up in Berlin, where we ran a hatchery up there for a couple of years in the Fox to see if we can get some more sauger up in the Fox River. And now that's in a study period.
Yep. Right. Yeah. I don't know. I've been back a few times. I mean, obviously not very far away. When I go back to fish, it's not the same. Things have changed. Something's changed up there. Don't know what. It's hard to, when I was first growing up, it was deeper. There was more flow, it seems like. And now it seems like we don't have a lot of water up there. And it could be just the times. I don't really know. I'm not a biologist, but it just seems,
me either.
I know if I'm going fishing for walleyes, I'm looking for, some water, some stuff that's flowing, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't seem to be like that up there. It's just, it's changed even from in my time.
Well, it's kind of funny. I get the same question on Shawano. And these guys are telling me they used to catch fish in the 90s. Well, I can't catch fish where I was in the 90s. That's 30 years ago.
Right? Yeah. Things have changed. Yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah. So, and I know Puckaway does pretty well on the top side. That seemed not to have too much issues, but I don't know, through the old, when I was growing up in I guess it'd be the early 90s, and it was the Wolf River and the Fox River up through Eureka and Berlin all that way, and now it seems like there's not much going on the Eureka way for the last decade or so. It seemed like it's kind of just died off, so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, the Eureka Dam was one of the Walleyes for Tomorrow's first project, that boil hole.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Filling it in, because all the little walleyes were dying and going over the dam.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things, because, you get up and see the fish and see them cross and whatever. We'd go up there. We had a cottage not very far below that, about maybe a mile in the river down below that. So we'd go up and check and see when the fish are coming. Okay, they're here. We should go fishing, right? So yeah, that was my whole, as a 15 to 18-year-old, I spent most of my time about a 2-mile stretch there. And, it's you go back now and it's a whole different world. And over time things change. And I guess we got to kind of adjust to what they are and kind of go forward. But yeah.
Well, with going forward, if there's anybody that's thinking about or would like to get a chapter going on their lake or do something with their lake, you can go on our website, walleyesfortomorrow.org, and do a contact. And you probably end up talking with Mike Arrowwood, the chairman of the board, and he can explain how we work and how to get a chapter started.
Right. Then you can get all kinds of walleyes, and you'll be like a pseudo fish biologist like Ken here.
A Barstool Biologist.
Well, thanks for being on. I was really, it was a good conversation, and it's going to come out right around walleye time. So that's why I was hoping to have you on so everybody can talk. So if you are having problems catching fish this week, because they'll be out right around the time we'll be fishing, look up on Walleyes for Tomorrow and start a chapter in your area. Until then, there's 2 things you do every day to make somebody happy. Is 1, give them a smile, and 2, take them fishing. Thanks a lot.